Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're looking into click fraud. We've got a really interesting mix of sources on this. Wikipedia, marketing sites, even reports from security companies. It seems like you're not just looking for like a simple definition here. You want to get into the mechanics of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to really go beyond just the surface level. I want to understand, who's doing this and why.
Right. Like who's actually profiting from this, who's losing out, and how does it affect, I don't know, not just online advertising, but like the way we find information in general.
Exactly.
Okay, so to start with the very basics, Wikipedia defines click fraud as fraud that occurs in pay-per-click online advertising. So somebody's trying to make it look like an ad is getting way more clicks than it actually is, right?
Right.
So why does that work?
So it's all about the way pay-per-click advertising is set up. Website owners, they're often called publishers, they get paid each time a visitor clicks an ad on their site. So you've got this system, right? You've got the advertiser, the publisher, and then the ad network. Think like Google AdSense, who are kind of the middlemen. And they all get a cut. So basically, wherever there's money to be made, there's always somebody who figures out how to game the system.
So more clicks equals more money for everyone, except the advertiser. They're the ones footing the bill.
Right.
But if those clicks aren't real people who are actually interested in the product, then it's just wasted money.
Exactly. And it's not just like a couple of bucks here and there. Some estimates put global losses for advertisers at $35 billion a year. And that number is only going to rise.
Whoa, okay. That's a lot of money. So it makes you wonder, who is behind all of this and what are they getting out of it? Wikipedia mentions like individual website owners, organized crime. Is it just like human beings clicking, though?
No. You're right to think beyond just individuals. Traffic bot services openly advertising competitor clicks highlights how much of this activity is actually driven by bots.
Oh, right.
Which is automated software that is designed to mimic human clicks. And to put it in perspective, Statista data actually shows that a quarter of all web traffic in 2024 was categorized as bad bots.
Wait, a quarter of all web traffic.
Yeah, so it's not just a few rogue actors. It's happening on a massive scale.
That's kind of unsettling, so it must mess with more than just ad revenue. Right?
That's the thing. Think about all the data that's being collected on website traffic, user behavior, product recommendations, all that. If a significant chunk of that data is actually coming from bots, it kind of skews our whole understanding of what's happening online.
So it's not just advertisers getting ripped off. It's potentially affecting how websites are designed,
Right.
what content gets prioritized. I don't know, maybe even influencing trends.
Yeah.
It's like this hidden layer of manipulation underneath everything.
Exactly. And then when you add in all the different motives behind the click fraud, it gets even more complex. While some people are just out to make some money, others are actually using it as a weapon against competitors. So they're deliberately clicking on their rivals' ads to drain their budgets or to lower their ranking.
Like a digital sabotage campaign.
Yeah.
I read in that article, traffic bot services openly advertising competitor clicks about this software that's specifically designed to target competitors' ads. And they even boast about how they use VPNs to mask their location.
Right.
And all of that for less than 500 euros. That's shockingly accessible.
Yeah, it is. And that's just one example. The methods that they're using are constantly evolving, becoming more sophisticated and a lot harder to detect. So we need to unpack all those techniques to really get a sense of how big a problem this really is.
Okay, so we've got this army of bots and bot actors trying to game the system. What are the actual techniques they're using? Is it more than just clicking on ads all day?
Yeah, it goes way beyond that. The click generator and that pasted text article both go into this. One thing that comes up a lot is bot networks.
Oh, yeah.
Which are essentially armies of bots that are spread across different devices and IP addresses, and they're all programmed to click on ads in a way that mimics human behavior.
So it's not just one person clicking like crazy. It's making it look like it's coming from all over.
Exactly.
That's got to be hard to catch.
Exactly. And it gets even more insidious. Pasted text describes these things called click farms, where you've got actual people, often in developing countries, being paid to click on ads all day long.
Oh, wow.
It's exploitation on a whole other level.
That's disturbing that there are people trapped in that. Do they even know that what they're doing is fraudulent?
That's a good question. Some of them might be fully aware, while others might be misled, thinking they're just helping a website gain popularity or something.
Yeah.
So the ethical implications are pretty murky.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you've got these bot networks, you've got click farms. Earn Avenue brought up something even more targeted, manipulating organic search results.
Right.
So not even ads, but like how a website ranks in a normal Google search. How does that even work?
It all comes down to click-through rates.
Oh, right.
Search engines use those to figure out how relevant and popular a website is. So if a site suddenly gets a ton of clicks, even if they're fake, it can climb up the rankings. And on the flip side, a competitor site could be targeted with fake clicks to make it look spammy and drop its ranking.
Oh, so you could literally manipulate how people find information online just
Yeah.
by gaming that system with fake clicks.
Yeah.
That's like messing with the very fabric of how we use the internet.
It really is. And the consequences go way beyond wasted ad dollars. Like, where do people buy and sell clicks?
Mhm.
Points out that this undermines trust between advertisers and publishers.
Yeah.
Because if a company suspects they're being defrauded, they're less likely to invest in online advertising, which hurts everyone in the long run.
Yeah, it's like a poison that spreads throughout the system.
Yeah.
It sounds like even the big players, like Google and Facebook, are struggling to keep up.
They are. That traffic bot services openly advertising competitor clicks article was pretty blunt about that. It said that even their methods aren't foolproof. They rely a lot on identifying and blocking fraud after it's already happened,
Right.
which leads to refunds and wasted ad spend.
So what are the alternatives? What can be done to fight this more proactively?
Well, there are some interesting developments. A lot of companies are using data analysis to track click patterns and try to find anomalies that might signal bot activity.
Okay.
IP address tracking is still in the mix, but it's becoming less effective because bots are getting smarter at using VPNs.
Right.
So it's kind of an arms race.
Yeah.
The fraudsters are getting more sophisticated and security measures have to keep up. What about those third-party services like QQ Essentials?
Yeah, they were mentioned as taking a more proactive approach.
They are. They use things like device fingerprinting, which basically creates a unique ID for each device based on its hardware and software.
Okay.
So even if a bot is using a VPN to mask its location, it can still be identified by its fingerprint.
It's like identifying someone by their fingerprints, even if they're wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So are those measures enough, though? Can we really stay ahead of these tactics that are constantly changing?
That's a tough question. Traffic bot services openly advertising competitor clicks basically says that this is an ongoing battle.
Yeah.
There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
It requires vigilance, constant innovation, and really collaboration across the industry.
It sounds kind of daunting, like this is just a fact of life in the digital age.
It can feel that way, especially when we're talking about sophisticated bot networks and international click farms. But there actually are things that individual users can do to protect themselves.
Really? What can you do if you're not running a massive ad campaign?
Right, but we are all consumers of online information. Think about those paid-to-read websites that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Wikipedia describes them as paying users tiny amounts to visit websites and click links.
Right. I've seen those. Yeah. You get paid a few cents to read an article.
Doesn't seem like a big deal, right?
Doesn't seem like a big deal.
But a lot of times, those clicks are actually part of click fraud schemes. The users might think they're getting a deal, but they're actually being exploited to generate fake traffic.
So it's like those get-rich-quick schemes.
Yeah.
Except instead of getting rich, you're just helping someone else get rich by clicking on ads.
Exactly. And it highlights how we all need to be more aware of the potential for manipulation online. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
So be skeptical of those easy money offers, okay?
Yeah.
What else?
Be mindful of what you're clicking on. Those annoying pop-up ads that try to disguise themselves as download buttons or system messages,
Yeah.
those can actually contribute to click fraud if people accidentally click on them.
Ugh, I hate those. They're so deceptive.
They are, but I guess it's like anything online, you got to be cautious and use your common sense.
Right. Pay attention to the URL. Look for misspellings. If you're not sure if it's legitimate, just close it out.
Exactly.
So even if we're not intentionally trying to defraud advertisers, we can still play a role in making the problem worse.
You got it. It's
Yeah.
like we have to be more conscious of our digital footprint, I guess.
Yeah.
Every click we make.
Exactly. And there are even more insidious techniques that can catch even careful users.
Like what?
Well, Click Fraud Wikipedia describe these things called hit inflation attacks. So imagine you're just, browsing the web and you land on a website that looks totally normal.
Uh-huh.
But hidden in the code of that website is a script that's secretly redirecting you to another site.
So I'm being sent somewhere without even knowing it.
Yeah. And then once you land on that second site, another script is triggered that automatically generates a click on an ad.
Oh, wow.
So basically, you're an unwitting accomplice in click fraud. So even if I'm super careful, I could still be generating fake clicks without realizing it.
It highlights how sophisticated these attacks can be. But there are ways to protect yourself.
Like what?
Well, one important step is being selective about the websites you visit. Stick to reputable sites with good security practices. And then consider using a good ad blocker. Those can actually help prevent some of those malicious scripts from running.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the bigger picture? So we've talked about individual actions, but this is like a systemic problem. Can we really fix this?
That's the million-dollar question. I think the answer is complex. It's going to take a multifaceted approach involving everything from like technological solutions to legal action to a fundamental shift in how we think about online advertising.
So a combination of better tech, stricter laws, and like a more ethical approach from the whole industry. That sounds like a pretty tall order.
It is, but I think it's a challenge worth taking on. The stakes are high. If we let click fraud continue unchecked, it could have a devastating impact on the future of the internet.
We've been talking a lot about how click fraud works and why people do it, but I'm thinking about the bigger picture now. Like, what happens if we just don't get this under control? What happens to the internet?
It's a good question, and I think it's one we all need to be thinking about. Like, if we just can't trust the information we see online, the whole thing kind of falls apart.
Right.
We rely on search engines, social media, online stores. If all of that gets messed up by click fraud, it really undermines the whole digital world.
And it's not just about ads either, right? We were talking about how this could be used to manipulate those organic search results. Like, you could make a website look way more popular than it is just by using fake clicks.
Exactly. And that has a huge impact on how we get information. If those search results are messed up, it's hard to know what's real and what's not.
Right. Makes it easy to spread misinformation. I keep thinking about that Earn Avenue article, the claims about tech companies maybe manipulating data. It's kind of scary. Like, few powerful companies could be controlling what we see.
Yeah, it's definitely a valid concern. It just shows how important transparency is. We need to know how these algorithms work.
So what can we do? Is it just about better technology? Or do we need to completely change how all this works?
I think it's going to have to be a lot of things. Technology is part of it, yeah. AI is getting better at spotting click fraud, but we also need rules and regulations to hold those bad actors accountable.
Wikipedia talked about those lawsuits against Google and Yahoo with millions of dollars in settlements. Is that enough to stop people?
It definitely sends a message, but it's hard to prove that someone did it on purpose, especially with those bots.
It's like a constant game of catch-up, and it's not enough to just go after the individual people doing it, right? You have to look at why it's such a profitable business in the first place.
Absolutely. As long as people can make money from fake clicks, they'll keep doing it. We might need to come up with completely new ways to do online advertising, something that isn't so focused on just getting clicks.
Yeah. I remember in How to Generate Clicks from Traffic or Affiliate Marketing, they actually talked about making better content, stuff that people actually want to see.
It's a good point. It's about building trust, not trying to trick people.
So in the end, it's about making the whole system better.
Yeah. Honesty and transparency should be what's rewarded online.
That means everyone has to change, right? Advertisers, publishers, tech companies, and even us. We need to be more careful about what we click on, which websites we use.
I agree. We're all part of this online world, and what we do matters. If we want a better internet, we have to demand better.
So much to think about. Click fraud is a really complex issue. There are no easy answers. But I guess the main thing is that we can do something about it.
Exactly. It's something we all have to deal with and talk about.
Because the future of the internet really is up to us. We can just let it happen, or we can demand a better experience.
It all comes down to the choices we make.
Okay, well, that's our deep dive into click fraud. Hopefully you learned something, and maybe it gave you some things to think about.
Yeah. No.
Until next time, stay curious, be careful what you click on, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.